It was past 11 at night when I heard the banging on my door. Not knocking. Banging. The kind that makes your heart jump because you know something's wrong before you even get up. I'd been sitting at my laptop for hours, trying to finish a presentation that was due the next morning. My eyes were tired, my back ached, and the last thing I expected was a visitor, especially at this hour. I lived alone in a small apartment on the third floor of an old building downtown, the kind of place where you hear every footstep in the hallway, every door that slams. The banging came again, louder this time, more desperate. I pushed back from my desk and walked to the door, my mind racing through possibilities. Wrong apartment? Emergency? Some drunk person looking for their friend? I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. It was her. Standing in the dim hallway light, soaked from head to toe. Her hair was plastered to her face, mascara running down her cheeks. She had a small backpack slung over one shoulder, and she looked like she'd been crying for hours. I opened the door slowly. "What are you doing here?" She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I had nowhere else to go. This was complicated. Very complicated. She was my ex's younger sister. We'd met a few times when I was dating her older sibling, maybe exchanged a few polite words at family dinners, but that was it. We weren't friends. We barely knew each other, and after the breakup 6 months ago, I'd made it a point to cut ties with that entire family. Clean break, move on. That's what everyone says you're supposed to do. But here she was, standing in my hallway, shivering and desperate. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "Just for tonight. I promise I'll leave in the morning." I should have said no. Every logical part of my brain was screaming at me to close that door, tell her to call someone else, anyone else. But there was something in her eyes. Real fear, real pain. The kind you can't fake. I stepped aside and let her in. She walked past me, dripping water onto my floor, and stood in the middle of my tiny living room looking lost. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The only sound was the rain hammering against my window and the steady drip, drip, drip of water falling from her clothes onto my carpet. "Wait here," I said finally. I went to my bathroom and grabbed every towel I could find. When I came back, she was still standing in the same spot, staring at nothing. I handed her the towels. "You need to dry off. You'll catch pneumonia or something." She took them without looking at me and started patting her face and hair. "Thank you," she whispered. "What happened?" I asked, keeping my distance. "Does your family know where you are?" Her jaw tightened. "I don't care what they know, I left." "I'm not going back." "You left?" "Like, left? "I'm done with them," she said, her voice suddenly sharp. "I'm done with their rules, their expectations, their constant judgment. I'm 22 years old and they still treat me like I'm a child. Tonight we had this huge fight. They want to control every aspect of my life. Where I go, who I see, what I do. I couldn't take it anymore. So I packed a bag and walked out. I ran a hand through my hair. This was way more than I'd signed up for. And you came here because you're the only person I could think of who might understand." She looked at me then, really looked at me. "You dated my sister for almost 2 years. You know what that family is like. You know how suffocating they can be." She wasn't wrong. My relationship with her sister had ended partly because of the constant family drama, the endless expectations, the way they inserted themselves into every decision, the judgment about everything from my job to the way I dressed. It had been exhausting, but this wasn't my problem anymore. I'd gotten out. I'd moved on. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle, "I get that you're upset. Family stuff is hard, but you can't just run away. You need to talk to them, work things out." "There's nothing to work out." She wrapped the towel around her shoulders. "I'm not going back. I just need somewhere to stay for tonight until I figure out my next move. That's all I'm asking. One night." I looked at her standing there in my living room, soaking wet and stubborn and clearly not thinking straight. Every instinct told me this was a bad idea. But what was I supposed to do? Kick her out into the rain? "Fine," I said. "One night. You can sleep on the couch, but tomorrow morning we're calling your family." "Whatever," she muttered, but I could see the relief in her eyes. I went to my bedroom and pulled out some clean clothes, an old t-shirt and sweatpants. They'd be way too big for her, but at least they were dry. When I came back, she was sitting on the edge of the couch, still wrapped in the towel, staring at her phone. "Here," I said, tossing her the clothes. "Bathroom's down the hall. You can change in there." She stood up and took the clothes. "Thank you," she said again, softer this time. While she was in the bathroom, I tried to process what was happening. This was bizarre. Completely bizarre. 6 months ago, I'd walked away from that family drama for good, and now it was literally standing in my living room wearing my clothes. I grabbed some blankets and a pillow from my closet and set up the couch as best I could. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. She came out of the bathroom looking smaller somehow in my oversized clothes, her wet hair pulled back from her face. The makeup was gone, washed away, and she looked younger, more vulnerable. "I set up the couch for you," I said, gesturing to the blankets. "There's water in the fridge if you need it. I have to finish some work, so I'll be up for a while. If you need anything, just let me know." She nodded and sat down on the couch, pulling the blanket around herself. "I really am sorry for showing up like this. I know it's weird. I just didn't know where else to go." "It's fine," I lied. "Just get some rest. We'll figure things out in the morning." I went back to my desk, but there was no way I could focus on work now. My mind was spinning. What had I just agreed to? What if her family found out she was here? What if they blamed me? What if this turned into some huge mess? I could hear her moving around on the couch, adjusting the blankets, trying to get comfortable. The rain continued to pound against the window. My apartment suddenly felt very small. An hour passed, then 2. I gave up on my presentation and just sat there staring at the screen, not really seeing anything. My mind kept wandering back to the girl on my couch. What kind of fight makes someone run away from home at 22? What kind of family pushes someone to that point? Then again, I knew that family. I'd seen their dynamics up close. The constant pressure, the impossible standards, the way they made everything into a crisis. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. Around 1 in the morning, I finally decided to call it a night. I turned off my laptop, brushed my teeth, and headed to my bedroom. As I passed through the living room, I glanced at the couch. She was curled up under the blankets, her eyes closed, but I could tell she wasn't really sleeping. Her breathing was too irregular, her body too tense. I didn't say anything. I just went to my room and closed the door. But sleep didn't come easy. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Wondering if I'd made the right choice letting her stay. Wondering what kind of mess I'd just walked into. The rain finally stopped sometime around 3. The silence that followed was almost worse than the noise. It left too much room for thinking. Too much room for doubt. I had no idea then that the real trouble hadn't even started yet. I didn't sleep much that night. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. My mind wouldn't shut off. Every time I started to drift off, I'd remember she was out there on my couch and my eyes would snap open again. Around midnight, I heard movement in the living room. Footsteps. The soft sound of someone walking around. I figured she couldn't sleep either. But then the footsteps stopped outside my bedroom door. My heart started pounding. I stayed perfectly still, listening. A soft knock. "Hey, are you awake?" I sat up. "Yeah, what's wrong?" "Can I come in?" I can't sleep. Every alarm bell in my head went off at once. This was not good. This was exactly the kind of situation that could spiral out of control in seconds. "Just a second," I called out. I got up, pulled on a shirt, and opened the door just enough to see her standing there in the dim light from the hallway. She'd taken off the sweatpants and was just wearing my oversized t-shirt that came down to her knees. "What's up?" I asked, keeping the door mostly closed. "I can't stop thinking," she said. Her voice sounded small, lost. "Every time I close my eyes, I just see their faces, hear their voices. I need to talk to someone." I glanced at the clock on my nightstand. 12:30. "It's pretty late. Maybe we should talk in the morning when we're both thinking clearer." "Please," she said. "Just for a few minutes. I won't be able to sleep otherwise." I hesitated. Part of me knew this was a terrible idea. But another part of me felt bad for her. She clearly was going through something real. "Okay," I said finally. "But let's talk in the living room. I'll make some tea or something." I walked past her and went to the kitchen, making sure to keep space between us. She followed behind me and sat down at the small table while I filled the kettle with water. "So what happened?" I asked, keeping my back to her as I set the kettle on the stove. "What was the fight about?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she started talking. And once she started, it all came pouring out. The fight had been about her wanting to move out. Get her own place. Live her own life. But her parents had lost it. Told her she was being selfish, ungrateful, irresponsible. Her older sister had sided with them, of course. Always the perfect one. Always doing exactly what they wanted. They'd brought up every mistake she'd ever made. Every bad decision, every time she'd disappointed them. It went on for hours until she just couldn't take it anymore. I listened, making 2 cups of tea, and brought them to the table. I sat down across from her, making sure to keep the table between us. "That sounds rough," I said, "but running away doesn't solve anything. You know that, right?" "I'm not running away," she insisted. "I'm making a choice. There's a difference." "Is there, though? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you left in the middle of a fight without a plan, without anywhere to go, without even a change of clothes." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You don't understand. Maybe I don't, but I do know that your family is probably worried sick right now. Whatever problems you guys have, they still care about you. They care about controlling me," she shot back. "That's not the same thing." We sat in silence for a minute, both of us drinking our tea. The apartment was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in the corner. "Why did you and my sister break up?" she asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. "That's complicated. Was it because of the family stuff?" I sighed. "Partly, yeah. Your family is intense. But it was more than that. We just weren't right for each other. She never got over you, you know," she said, looking at me over her cup. "She still talks about you sometimes." I didn't know what to say to that. My ex and I hadn't spoken since the breakup. I'd assumed she'd moved on just like I had. "That's in the past," I said finally. "We both moved on. Have you, though?" She leaned forward slightly. "Moved on? What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're still alone. Still in this same apartment. Still working the same job. Doesn't seem like you've moved forward much." Her words stung because they were true. 6 months after the breakup, my life did look pretty much the same. I'd thrown myself into work, kept my head down, avoided any kind of relationship or connection. I'd told myself I was healing, taking time for myself. But maybe I'd just been stuck. "I'm doing fine," I said, more defensively than I intended. "I didn't say you weren't." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dark street below. "I just think it's interesting. You got out of that family, but you're still letting them affect your life, still playing it safe, still keeping everyone at a distance. That's not what I'm doing, isn't it?" She turned to face me. "I show up at your door desperate for help, and your first instinct is to send me back. You let me stay, but you can't even have a conversation without putting a table between us. You're terrified of any kind of connection." "That's not fair," I said. "I barely know you. This is a complicated situation." "Everything is complicated with you," she said, taking a step closer. "That's the problem." I stood up, suddenly very aware of how small my apartment was. "Look, it's late. We're both tired. Let's just get some sleep and deal with this in the morning." "I don't want to sleep," she said, taking another step toward me. "I don't want to go back to lying on that couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling alone." "Well, I don't know what you want me to do about that. Don't you?" She was close now. Too close. I could smell the soap she'd used from my bathroom, see the way her eyes were looking at me. I took a step back. "This isn't happening." "Why not?" she asked, her voice soft but challenging. "We're both adults. We're both lonely. What's wrong with finding comfort in each other?" "What's wrong?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're my ex's sister. You showed up here because you needed help, not because you wanted this. You're emotional and not thinking straight, and this would be wrong on about 10 different levels." "You think too much," she said. "And you're not thinking enough," I countered. "Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and regret this." "And then what? How does that help anything?" She stared at me for a long moment. Then, without warning, she reached for the hem of the t-shirt she was wearing. "Wait, what are you doing?" I said, panic rising in my chest. She pulled the shirt up slightly. "Showing you that sometimes you need to stop thinking and just feel." "No," I said firmly, holding up my hand. "No, no, no. This stops right now. Put the shirt down. This isn't happening. Why are you so scared?" she challenged. "I'm not scared. I'm being responsible." "There's a difference." I moved toward the bedroom. "You need to go back to the couch now. We're done talking." For a second, I thought she might argue. Her hands were still on the shirt, her eyes still fixed on mine. The moment stretched out, tense and dangerous. Then she dropped her hands. "You're just like them," she said quietly. "Judging me. Rejecting me. That's not what this is, then what is it?" "It's me doing the right thing even though you're making it incredibly difficult." I pointed toward the living room. "Please, just go." She walked past me without another word. her shoulder brushing against mine as she went. I heard her footsteps in the living room, the sound of her settling back onto the couch, the rustle of blankets. I went back to my bedroom and closed the door, my hands shaking. My heart was racing like I'd just run a marathon. What had just happened? Was she serious or was she testing me? Was this about attraction or was it about something else entirely? Anger at her family? A need to feel some kind of control? I sat on the edge of my bed trying to process everything. One thing was clear. This girl was dealing with way more than just a fight with her family. This was deeper, more complicated. And I was way out of my depth. I should have never let her in. I should have called her family the moment I saw her in the hallway. But it was too late for that now. All I could do was make it through the night and deal with the fallout in the morning. I lay back down but kept my door closed and locked. Just in case, the apartment was silent again. But this time, the silence felt different, heavier, loaded with everything that had almost happened and all the ways this situation could still go wrong. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. When I finally opened my eyes, sunlight was streaming through my window. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, 8:30. I'd slept maybe 3 hours total. For a moment, I just lay there, hoping maybe the whole thing had been some weird dream. But then I heard movement in the living room and reality came crashing back. I got up, pulled on some proper clothes, and steeled myself for whatever awkward conversation was waiting for me. When I opened my bedroom door, I found the couch empty. The blankets were folded neatly, the pillows stacked on top. "Hello?" I called out, no answer. I checked the bathroom, empty, the kitchen. Nobody there either. She was gone. At first, I felt relieved. Maybe she'd just left early, gone back home, and this whole crazy night would fade into a weird memory. But then I noticed my wallet sitting on the kitchen counter. I always kept it in my jacket pocket. I picked it up and opened it. The credit cards were all there. My ID. But the cash was gone. I'd had about $80 in there. Now there was nothing. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. I checked my jacket pockets. My spare apartment key was missing too. My relief turned to anger. She'd stolen from me? After I'd helped her, given her a place to stay, tried to do the right thing, she'd robbed me and disappeared. I grabbed my phone and called the number I'd saved from last night when I'd asked for her contact information. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You left this morning and took some money from my wallet. And my spare key. I need both of those back. Call me." I hung up and paced around my apartment. What was I supposed to do now? Call the police? Call her family? Before I could decide, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Hello? What did you do?" The voice was sharp, angry, and painfully familiar. "My ex." "I didn't do anything," I said. "Your sister showed up at my place last night, upset and soaking wet. I let her sleep on my couch." "That's it. And you didn't think to call us?" "Call me? Let anyone know she was safe?" "She asked me not to. She said she didn't want to go back. She's 22 years old and having a mental breakdown. What she wants isn't always what's best for her." She paused. "Where is she now?" "I don't know. She was gone when I woke up. You just let her leave?" "I was asleep. She took off on her own." I hesitated. "Look, I think you need to know something. She took money from me. And a key to my apartment. Something's not right." There was a long silence on the other end. "That's not the first time," she said finally, her voice softer now. "What do you mean?" "She's been struggling. For the past year, maybe longer. We've been trying to help her, but she won't accept it. She thinks we're controlling her, but we're just trying to keep her safe." "Safe from what?" Another pause. "From herself. She's been making some really bad decisions. Hanging around with people who take advantage of her, getting into situations that could hurt her. Last month, she did this same thing to her friend. Showed up in the middle of the night, stayed over, and then left with jewelry and cash." My stomach dropped. "Why didn't anyone tell me this before?" "We're trying to keep it in the family. We don't want people to judge her. She's sick. She needs help. But every time we try to get her into treatment, she runs." I sat down on the couch, still warm from where she'd been lying hours before. "I had no idea." "Of course you didn't, that's what she does. She seems vulnerable and desperate and people want to help, but then she manipulates the situation, tests boundaries, causes problems." "She definitely tested boundaries," I said, thinking about last night's conversation. I almost thought, never mind. "Thought what?" "Nothing. It doesn't matter now. But my ex knew me too well. She came on to you, didn't she? I didn't answer. Of course she did, she said, sounding tired. That's part of the pattern. She seeks out men who show her kindness, then tries to turn it into something else. It's how she validates herself. How she feels in control. This is way more complicated than I thought. Everything with her is complicated. Look, if she contacts you again, please call me immediately. Don't let her in. Don't give her money. Don't try to help. I know that sounds harsh, but trust me, helping her right now means not enabling her. Okay, I said, but what if she's in trouble? What if she needs real help? We've got people looking for her. Her therapist, her caseworker. We know the places she usually goes. We'll find her. After we hung up, I sat there feeling like an idiot. I'd thought I was being a good person, helping someone in need. But I'd just been played, manipulated, used. The thing was, her pain had seemed so real. Those tears, that fear in her eyes. Was all of that fake? Or was it real but twisted up with something darker, something more complex? I spent the rest of the morning changing my locks. Called the landlord, explained that I'd lost a key and paid for an emergency replacement. It cost me another $150 on top of the $80 she'd already taken. That afternoon I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting. I kept thinking about the conversation we'd had, the way she'd looked at me, the things she'd said. Some of it had felt genuine. But how much? Where did the real person end and the manipulation begin? Around 4 o'clock I got a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry about the money. I'll pay you back. I just needed to get away. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Where are you? People are worried about you. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I'm fine. I'm with a friend. What friend? Does your family know? No response. I tried calling the number, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent another text, then another. Nothing. The next message I got was from my ex again. Did she contact you? Yes, she texted but won't tell me where she is. Says she's with a friend. We need to find her. Can you send me the number she texted from? I sent it over feeling like I was betraying something, even though I knew I was doing the right thing. An hour later, my ex called back. We found her. She's at some guy's apartment across town, an older man she met online a few weeks ago. My parents are on their way there now. Is she okay? I don't know, I hope so. But this guy she's with, he has a history. Restraining orders. He preys on vulnerable women. We tried to warn her about him before, but she wouldn't listen. Do you need me to do anything? No, you've done enough. Actually, that came out wrong. Thank you for calling me, for letting me know. Just, if she contacts you again, don't engage. Let us know, but don't engage. I won't. I promised. After that call ended, I felt hollow, used, confused, angry, worried, everything all at once. I'd been dragged into something I didn't understand, something way bigger than one girl having a fight with her family. This was about mental health, about patterns of behavior, about a family trying desperately to help someone who kept pushing them away. And I'd been stupid enough to think I could fix it by offering a couch for the night. That evening, I got one more text from that unknown number. You told them where I was. They were worried about you. You need help. I needed someone to trust me. You failed, just like everyone else, then nothing. The number stopped responding. A day later, when I tried to call it, the line was disconnected. I never heard from her directly again. But the story wasn't over yet. The next few days were tense. I kept expecting something else to happen. Another knock on my door. Another phone call. Another crisis. But there was nothing. Just silence. I went to work. Came home, tried to get back to normal. But normal felt different now. I found myself checking the hallway before leaving my apartment. Looking over my shoulder on the street. Keeping my phone volume up just in case. It wasn't until almost a week later that I heard anything more. My ex called. She's back home, she said. For now anyway. How is she? Not great. Angry at everyone, especially you. She thinks you betrayed her. I did what I had to do, I know. And thank you. My parents got to that guy's place just in time. The situation there was worse than we thought. She paused. She's agreed to see a therapist. First real step forward in months. That's good, I said. That's really good. We'll see if it sticks. She's fought treatment every step of the way. Another pause. Look, I know this whole thing has been weird for you. I'm sorry you got dragged into our family drama. It's okay. I just hope she gets the help she needs. Me too. We talked for a few more minutes, and for the first time since our breakup, it wasn't awkward. We were just two people who'd shared history, talking about something bigger than our past relationship. It felt strangely normal. When we hung up, I thought that was the end of it. Situation resolved, crisis averted. Life moves on. But I was wrong. 2 days later, I was walking home from the grocery store when I saw her. She was sitting on the steps outside my building, her arms wrapped around her knees, looking small and lost. My first instinct was to turn around and walk away, call someone. Not engage, but something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was concern. Maybe it was just stubbornness. I walked up to her. "What are you doing here?" She looked up at me with red eyes. I needed to explain. Explain what? Why you stole from me. Why you put yourself in danger. Why you blamed me for trying to help. All of it. She stood up. "Can we talk?" "Just for a minute. I promise I'll leave right after." Every warning bell in my head was going off. Don't engage, walk away. Call her family. But I also saw something in her face that I hadn't seen before. Not manipulation. Not performance. Just exhaustion. 5 minutes, I said. Out here. Then you leave. She nodded and sat back down on the steps. I sat a few feet away, setting my groceries beside me. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For all of it. The money, the key, the whole mess. I wasn't thinking clearly. That's what everyone keeps telling me. That you're not well, that you need help. They're not wrong." She pulled her knees back up to her chest. "I've been struggling for a while. Longer than anyone realizes, and when things get bad, I do stupid stuff. Impulsive stuff. I hurt people who try to help me. Why did you come to my place that night?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because I remembered you. From when you dated my sister. You were always kind, always calm, never judgmental. And I thought maybe you'd understand what it feels like to want to escape that family. But that wasn't all of it, was it?" "No," she admitted. "I was testing you, seeing if you'd take advantage, seeing if you'd prove that everyone eventually hurts you. And when you didn't, when you actually set boundaries and tried to do the right thing, I got angry. Because it meant I was wrong. It meant maybe not everyone is out to hurt me. So you hurt me instead." "Yeah." She looked down at her hands. "I'm really messed up." "I know that. I'm trying to get better, but it's hard." "Is that why you're here? To apologize?" "Partly." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled envelope. "And to give you this." I took the envelope and opened it. Inside was $120 in cash and a spare key to my building. "It's not the exact key I took," she said, "but the landlord gave me a copy when I explained what happened. And the money is what I took plus some extra. For the trouble." I stared at the envelope. "Where did you get this money?" "I got a job. Nothing fancy. Just working at a coffee shop. My therapist said I needed structure, responsibility, so I got a job." "And you're actually going to therapy?" She nodded. 3 times a week. It's helping. Slowly. I'm starting to understand why I do the things I do. Why I push people away and test them and sabotage good things. "That's good," I said, and I meant it. "That's really good." We sat in silence for a minute, watching cars pass by on the street. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said finally. "I just wanted you to know I'm trying. And I'm sorry." "I appreciate that." I put the envelope in my pocket. "But you need to know what you did that night, the way you came on to me, that wasn't okay. Even if you were testing me, even if you were hurting, it wasn't fair to put me in that position." "I know," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "I've been talking about that with my therapist. About boundaries and consent and how messed up it was. I'm working on it." "Good. Because the next person might not handle it the way I did. Someone else might take advantage. And then you'd really be hurt." "I know," she said again. "My therapist says the same thing. I'm lucky you were decent. You shouldn't have to rely on luck," I told her. "You should be able to trust people without testing them. And people should be able to help you without it turning into something complicated." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I'm trying to get there." We sat for another minute, then she stood up. "I should go. I told my family I'd be home for dinner. That's part of the deal. Regular meals together, checking in, all that stuff. Sounds like they really care about you." "Yeah," she said, and for the first time she smiled a little. "They drive me crazy, but they do care. I'm starting to see that." She started walking away, then turned back. Hey, that night when I asked why you and my sister broke up, you said it was complicated. Was it really just the family stuff? I thought about it. No, it was more than that. We wanted different things. We were at different places in our lives. The family drama just made it harder to see clearly. Do you regret it? The relationship? No, we had good times. But it ran its course. That's how things go sometimes. She nodded slowly. Thanks for being honest. And for not taking advantage that night. And for calling my family even though I got mad about it. You probably saved me from something really bad. Just take care of yourself, I said. And keep going to therapy. I will, she promised. Then she walked away, and this time I watched her go feeling something different. Not anger or confusion or frustration, just hope. Hope that she'd figure things out. Hope that the help she was getting would make a difference. Hope that the next time she was in crisis, she'd make better choices. I picked up my groceries and headed inside, feeling lighter somehow. Like a weight had been lifted. The situation still didn't make complete sense, and I still felt weird about the whole thing. But at least there was some closure, some acknowledgement of what had happened, some attempt to make it right. That evening, I got a text from my ex. Her therapist said she went to see you today. Thank you for not turning her away, and for being kind even though she didn't deserve it.